Alright, we have so much to talk about, from the Nintendo Creator Program shutting down to the mess that is Fallout 76 and the PS1 Classic, as well as to Switch have too many games, a follow-up from a Mediarant so long ago. What is up, my most amazing Media Man fans? This is the Media Man. Welcome to another Media Rant. Great to be back. I do miss doing these. Now, I want to share with you real quick. The main reason I'm doing this is because I got an email in my email account. I'm not going to say which one, but I got an email from Nintendo, and I wanted to share the information that I just got to you. That's how much I love you guys. But if you're a Nintendo creator already, you probably know this already, but if you don't, this is important stuff, and it is going to affect you, especially if you're a YouTuber and you do YouTube videos, which otherwise what would you do if you were a YouTuber? Anyway, dear Nintendo creator, we want to share some news with you. We are ending the Nintendo Creators Program, the NCP, to make it easier for you to make and monetize videos that contain Nintendo game content. We will no longer ask you to submit your video to the NCP, and you can continue showing your passion for Nintendo as long as you adhere to Nintendo's guidelines. I'm not going to read them all. I did try that. It actually took about 15-20 minutes to read everything, so I'm not going to do that to you. But I will leave these guidelines in a link in the description. It should be the first link you see, but I'll label it as such, so you can check them out yourself. I'd recommend it, and there's some questions at the bottom of the guidelines that actually answered a lot of my questions about what's going on. So let me finish reading this, and I'll talk a little bit about it, and then we'll move on. The NCP will come to a close at the end of December 2018. Please note that we are no longer accepting videos and channels, and will not review any that have been submitted but not yet registered. All registered videos and channels will end their affiliation with the NCP by December 6th, 2018, and revenue generated through that date will be paid by a registered PayPal account by February 2019. So basically, if you're already affiliated with them and you've made some money off of their videos, or they made some money off your videos, I should say, you will get paid out by February 2019. And even though the NCP is officially coming to a close by the end of December, it's actually technically December 6th, because that's when your affiliation will end. And I guess the rest of it is just wrapping everything up. We appreciate and encourage your continued support. Thank you for your dedication to helping us create Smiles Nintendo Co. Ltd. So just real quick, want to kind of connect with you on what this means. One of the really cool things that I do like about this is that if you're not part of the Nintendo Creators Program, which is kind of hard to get into, it took me a while, you can now create Nintendo stuff. Just like with Microsoft, just like with Sony, how you can just record and post your gameplay. Now there are some caveats which I will talk about in just a minute, but you can now do that with Nintendo, which I think is fantastic, because I am a huge Nintendo fan, always have been. And now, if you have a creative idea, you absolutely can record their stuff, and I think that's fantastic. I am kind of sad because there were some perks with the Nintendo Creator Program and all that stuff, but I would rather it be out there for you guys, and for more creative people who maybe couldn't get into the channel for whatever reason. Now, there's a couple things I'm going to touch on from the guidelines. This is just me, what I remember from reading them. I'm not going to, again, read all the guidelines because it does take a while, but I recommend you do. One of the things that I do want to talk about real quick is if the third-party stuff doesn't count for this. That's kind of a separate thing. In other words, if it's a Mario title, there is a Zelda, you know, any Nintendo properties, Pokemon. I think, yeah, I'm sure Pokemon, even though Game Freaks does it, is still a Nintendo property. Any of that stuff. Kirby, you know, I'm sure I could go on. If you want to do Smash Brothers stuff, you don't have to be part of the NCP anymore. You can just do that. However, if you want to post something for, like, let's say Bayonetta or one of their other big Nintendo titles that's not actually made from Nintendo, from a Nintendo company, you need to get their permission. You need to go through third-party stuff. Most of the stuff I get the okay from the company. They actually send me stuff and ask me to cover it. So I only say that because some people don't quite understand that they post something and it gets taken down. you do need to make sure that you get that permission from the third-party stuff. So there's that. And if you guys want to know kind of where you can start getting keys and things like that, if you're just starting out as a creator, let me know. I'll make a video about it and talk a little bit about it. But anyway, so that's kind of the thing. Make sure that it's a Nintendo game and not some third-party game. Otherwise, you know, you haven't got the exact okay, and of course they reserve the right if you do some sick, disgusting stuff with their games. They could take it down if they don't like what you do. So just be a little careful with that as well. But otherwise, you can do Let's Plays, you can do reviews. What you can't do, and I want to make this very clear, is just record Nintendo gameplay without any commentary, without being creative. They want you to be creative. Because if you're not, they can pull that as well. They're not giving you permission just to take gameplay stuff and post it. And also the other part, the other thing I'm going to talk about, and we'll move on to something else, is you cannot post stuff that hasn't been released yet. That Nintendo hasn't given the okay to do yet, unless it's a trailer or a Nintendo Direct, which I think is fantastic. But in other words, let's say you go to TwitchCon or actually, I didn't really see Nintendo at TwitchCon, but if you go somewhere like that, or you know, at some expo, you go to E3, and you record someone playing a Nintendo game that's not out yet, you do not have permission to post that. So just to be clear on that. But yeah, so kind of good news for those who aren't creators. For those who are, kind of a bummer, but again, I'm really happy that you guys are going to be able to enjoy what we've been enjoying this whole time. So, so yeah, that's about it for that bit of news. Alright, now that we've done the service announcement for Nintendo, let's talk about the now much maligned Fallout 76. If you don't believe me that people are hating it, just head over to Metacritic, check out the 54 critic score and the 2.9, holy smokes, 2.9 user score. Generally, the user score is a little higher than the critic score, at least that I've seen. So a 2.9 user score means people are very, very upset. So why are they so upset? It's not like Bethesda's never released a game that had bugs or glitches. Well, that's true, but they've also never released a game with this many bugs and glitches, where it's pretty much unplayable. Server issues, which is I think one of the biggest ones. People can't even get on to play. I mean, imagine paying $60 for a game and then you can't get on and play it. That kind of sucks. You know, and they said the fix is to just keep trying. Well, thanks very much. Can I have my money back, please? And people are so mad. I don't know if you guys saw that video of that guy in GameStop that's just throwing stuff and tearing the place apart because he can't get a refund. And actually, I think Bethesda is now offering refunds. It's a complete mess. So what happened? Well, first of all, they announced it, and before you know it, the game is released. I do believe it was rushed. I think there was an expectation from people that it was going to be this amazing experience like the other Fallout games and like the Skyrim series. I'm a bigger Skyrim fan myself, but I do love the Fallout series as well. They're both fantastic games, especially on PC because you can mod them and all that stuff, which is why I'm not thrilled in the first place that it's online. That's just my 2 cents. For those who have played Elder Scrolls Online, it is a fun game. It is very good, definitely much better than this one. But you can't really mod it as much. I really like modding the heck out of mine. You know, I have over 1,000 hours, I think, just on Skyrim alone. And by the way, it's fantastic on Switch, even though you can't mod it. It's still a great port. But anyway, back to this. There's just a lot of bugs. And, you know, again, the biggest one is the server issue. If you can't get on, what are you going to do? Just sit there and stare at a screen? You know, the other part is the armor. There's this armor issue with... you know, the big power armor, where people are apparently players see him as naked and mutated, like their bodies are all mangled and stuff. There's a Fallout 76 missing enemies. There's ghost bullets. There are so many different errors. I would look them up. Look them up online, and you can kind of see how much fun this must be for people that are big Fallout fans. And you know, I think the biggest and the hardest part for people is there was such a huge expectation for Fallout 76 being a Bethesda game, being a Fallout game, and it makes it just that much worse. If people didn't know about the game, maybe it's the first Fallout game they tried, I think they'd be more forgiving. But I honestly don't blame people for being disappointed. I don't blame them for being angry. Although, don't go into GameStop and throw stuff. That's just stupid. Speaking of disappointments and messes, I did put a pre-order down on the PS1 Classic, and I'm not so sure I'm going to pick that up. And let me tell you why. It came out with the 20 games that are going to be on it. And they're not great. I mean, first they announced Final Fantasy VII. Of course, I love Final Fantasy VII. One of my favorite RPGs, simply because it got me back into it. And really well done, great writing, just a great game if you haven't played it for some crazy reason. I think you can get it on Steam. I'm not sure how good it is on Steam, but you can definitely get it there. And of course you can track down a original copy if you've got a PS1 or whatever. But you know, just a list of the games: Battle Arena Toshinden, which is, I played it even back then. I thought it was a terrible fighter. Some people swear by it. I didn't really like it that much, but that's on there. Cool Borders 2. Hey, a skateboard game. I mean, I'm sorry, a snowboard game. Tony Hawk would have been better, so yeah, skateboard game definitely would have been better. But Destruction Derby, that game was pretty fun in its day, but you just kind of go around in circles and crash into people. Grand Theft Auto, of course everybody knows Grand Theft Auto. This is, in case you didn't know, top-down, old school. Intelligent Cube, kind of a fun little puzzler, but not really a classic. Jumping Flash, some people love it, some people swear by it. It's a first-person platformer shooter kind of thing. I didn't like it. It made me nauseous, but that's just me. Metal Gear Solid, of course, a classic, a fantastic game. We'll talk about the issues with it, though, in just a minute when I talk a little bit about the system itself and some of the issues. Mr. Driller, a fun little platformer, but I don't know, a $100 console, $100 classic console, which isn't super bad, but that's one of the 20 games. Oddworld Apes Odyssey, that is a classic. It is very good, but again, there's so many great games on the PS1. I don't know if that would be one of the ones I would have picked, but okay, I could go with that. Rayman, great first-person, great platformer. 2D, gorgeous, all that. Resident Evil Director's Cut. This is Resident Evil with analog support. See, here's the thing. I'm just going to mention this right now. You don't think I'm completely crazy, but the controllers that come with it are the original PS1 controllers. There's no analog on it, so Resident Evil Director's Cut, I think there may be a few other things, but the biggest deal was the analog controls. There's no analog control. Maybe they'll sell those separate that you can buy, or maybe I think the ports might be the same, so you might be able to track down a PS1 analog controller, but including something like that when it's not really supported sucks. To continue, we'll talk about the other stuff in just a minute, but let me finish with what's on there. Revelations Persona. Never played this. I've heard it's not great for a Persona game. I don't know though. R4 Ridge Racer Type 4. Okay, it was cool when it came out. There's a lot better racers now. Maybe you're a big Ridge Racer fan and this is exciting to you. But okay, great. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. This one I'm cool with. I did like that. I do like this puzzle game. I'm not a huge puzzle game guy, but the Street Fighter stuff and the fun co-op or versus that you could do with your friends and the cool super moves. It was a fun game. I did enjoy it. So I think it's cool that that's on there. Siphon Filter. I heard a lot of hate on this one from people who are mad about this classic stuff. I like this game. I think it's cool. I'm glad it's on there. Really kind of a hard game sometimes, but I really enjoyed it. Tekken 3, it's a Tekken game. That's cool. I could play fighters on other stuff, so not really thrilled about it, but it's fine. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six was fun on PS1 when you could use an analog. Again, there's no analog, and using a D-pad, and apparently the controls are horrible on this. So whatever. Twisted Metal, this one is cool. I did like the Twisted Metal series, so being able to play that again is fun. And Wild Arms, this was actually a really fun, I thought, RPG. But again, this is the biggest deal is it's supposed to be 20 classics, and a lot of these are not classics. Of course, Metal Gear and Final Fantasy VII being the biggest. But one of the biggest issues that I'm hearing with this is, unlike the Super Nintendo Classic and the NES Classic, which are, you know, much older systems, the 3D in this doesn't look good. If you're playing in a 4K or a 1080p, you're going to see a lot of ridges, you're going to see a lot of breaking of, you know, the backgrounds and stuff like that, a lot of just crappy looking graphics didn't hold up very well. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, is a lot of these games just didn't hold up. Final Fantasy VII will be fine. You know what to expect. It's a great game. You're going to get, you know, 80 hours or more, especially if you decide to fight the ruby weapons and the different weapons, and, you know, whatever. You guys, if you played it, you know what I'm talking about. But Intelligent Cube, Grand Theft Auto, okay, well, maybe a little fun, but Cool Borders, which apparently looks horrible. Mr. Driller, a fun puzzle game, but 20, they gave you 20 games. Now, I have a feeling that people are probably going to hack this really soon. I'm not telling you to hack it. I'm not saying that that's what I would do. But, you know, they'll probably, people that buy it may buy it for that. But really not a whole lot going on here that, you know, that I find exciting or worth it. So really kind of a mess, disappointing. The graphics look terrible. Again, yes, it is a very old system, and that's expected, but if you played Super Nintendo Classic, the games actually look really good, the 2D games. Now, Rayman does apparently look really good on it, and 2D stuff on here. But to be honest, I never thought the PS1 had super great graphics. I thought it was the first time they were doing 3D, and the cinematics were great, but when you got the actual graphics, they look kind of crappy. But now, they're, you know, when you put something on a 1080p screen or a 4K screen, all little details that look garbage are going to show up that much better. So, kind of a messy thing and very disappointing. I probably won't keep my pre-order. I'm going back and forth, but this comes out the 5th, I believe, and there's a lot of issues. The other thing I want to talk about before I wrap this media rant up is I was a big proponent of all the games that the Switch was releasing. And, you know, people were talking about how, well, you know, it's, there's too many games, and I was going, no, there's not too many games, there's just a lot to choose from. I think there's too many games. I think I have at least 250, close to 3 maybe. I don't know, I get sent a lot of stuff because of the indie element of the Switch. A lot of developers send me stuff. They even send me full-blown AAA titles, which I appreciate. So I have a lot of stuff on my Switch. I have a 200 gig memory card, and I need more space. There's so much stuff, and part of the problem with having so many games, and something I was really thinking a lot about, is a lot of the really good games are getting lost. Now, I am going to try and start a series where I tell you like 5 to 10 really good Switch indie games, you know, just to kind of put a spotlight on them, and I'll try to do that more often. Try to do my media rants more often and kind of include it in there, or, you know, I'm not sure. I'm thinking about it. There's going to be a lot of changes coming up, and I'm really excited about that. But just a lot of quality is getting lost, and that kind of makes me sad. So that's all really I'm going to say about it. But, you know, come on, Nintendo, you need to appreciate the fact that you are putting stuff out all the time, and it's kind of exciting. But we don't have an eShop. We're not getting a lot of Nintendo stuff. Oh, we have an eShop, I'm sorry. We don't have a lot of Nintendo stuff on the eShop. And so that's kind of a bummer. And honestly, the Nintendo Online isn't doing a whole lot for me. as far as the games that they're giving, because these are NES games. You know, at least throw some Super Nintendo games. And maybe I sound spoiled, I don't know. Wouldn't it be cool to see some of those N64 games you grew up on? Play some of the Turok games again. I love the Turok series. Super Mario 64, of course, Banjo-Kazooie, Perfect Dark. I could go on. So many great games on the N64. I'd love to see that on the Switch. So if you're listening, Nintendo, make it happen. As always, we'll see you in the next video. I love you guys. You guys are fantastic. You're the reason Media Man is where it's at. Couldn't do without you. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye now.